In the summer of 2005, a wild rampage unfolded on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. Random gunshots, firebomb buildings, a city on edge, wondering who would be next. On this week's episode of Two Crime Newsies, we're talking about the bizarre relationship between two seemingly ordinary men who unleashed a wave of terror on the Valley of the Sun. Hey everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks for being with us for another week of Two Crime Newsies.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Did you like my intro?
I do. It's
the
a good
Valley
one.
of the Sun.
Ooh.
That's apparently what the city of Phoenix is called.
All right, I believe it.
Tina and I are sitting here with our coffee.
We sure are. I need another cup, I think.
Yeah? Do you need to make another cup?
I have about a quarter left.
Okay.
Maybe I'll make it last.
Speaking of coffee, I want to thank everybody who has contributed to our coffee fund.
I just saw your note. Tina, talk about coffee fun.
I put in the notes, Tina, talk about coffee. And she's just like, da-da-da.
I'm telling you, I need more coffee.
Is your foot still asleep?
No, it woke up.
That's
but my brain didn't. Okay, we have a coffee fund.
Good job. High five, friend.
Thank you. If you want to donate to our coffee fund, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies. You can also go to twocrimenewsies.com, or you'll see a link to Buy Me a Coffee there. When you donate to Buy Me a Coffee, you literally fuel our podcast.
All right, so before we get into the episode, I want to also say that this episode is not meant for little ears. If you don't like crimey stuff, I guess go find another podcast.
Right. I don't know if true crime is the right one for you, friend.
Yeah. Okay, with that being said, let's get into the show. You ready to go, Tina?
Yes.
All right. This week we're talking about the show I Lived with a Killer. It's season 1, episode 16, Phoenix Serial Killer. Now, I was truthfully hooked from the title. We've talked about this a few times on other cases where someone has lived with someone and unbeknownst to them, that person who they were calling their husband or their father was in fact a serial killer. And that's what happened in this case.
Jen, there are 20 episodes in season 1 of I Lived with a Killer. What in the world? That is too many. 20 stories of people who lived with a killer. Mm-hmm. What a traumatic experience. The most memorable case for me of listening to family members talk about their experience living with a killer is the family of the Long Island serial killer. That documentary was fascinating. I feel like the signs were there for them. And they just completely missed all the red flags that they were living with a serial killer.
We published an episode on this particular story back in June of 2025 called The Wife Speaks Long Island Serial Killer. Go back and listen to it if you haven't already. It's a doozy, let me tell you.
It is. And go watch that documentary that we mentioned in that episode. It's a must watch.
It's good. It's good. Okay, so let's get into this show. On I Lived with a Killer, the Phoenix Serial Killer, we hear that in 2005 and 2006, a serial killer was roaming Phoenix, Arizona, and shooting people. No one is safe during the night. A killer is driving around the city, shooting people without a clear motive.
This sounds a lot like the DC snipers, except the DC snipers were caught within about 3 weeks of their shooting spree, and this guy went on for 14 months.
It's a long time.
A long time of living with terror.
The one thing that was very out of the norm for us with this show was that within the first 10 seconds of the episode, they identified the suspects. It was super surprising, and the show is basically how did we catch this man type of show. The suspect that was identified is a man named Dale Hausner, and Hauser, we're told, is responsible for a cluster of shootings in and around Phoenix, the first of which happened on June 29th of 2005.
Randy Hausner is Dale's brother, and he says he used to hear about people being married to serial killers and not knowing. And he would think, how could you not know? Well, Randy now says it's easy to not know if they're a psychopath. Camille Kimball is the author of a book called A Sudden Shot, and she says a family was going through a fast food drive-thru on the night of June 29th, 2005, and as they were leaving, they see a body on the sidewalk near the restaurant. We now hear from Cliff Jewell, a retired homicide detective for the Phoenix Police Department, and he says a hitchhiker named David Estrada was standing on that sidewalk trying to collect money when he was shot. But it wasn't a robbery because there was still money left at the scene, and investigators can't find a motive for this shooting.
That same night, another fast food restaurant had its windows shot up. The next morning, people also found a horse dead, which had been shot multiple times. And we hear police knew the shootings were all in the same area, but there was no reason for it. And in the meantime, we hear in Phoenix, Dale Hausner and Randy Hausner work at the Phoenix airport.
Randy says he and Dale worked as part of a maintenance crew at the airport. They come from a family of 5, with Dale being the youngest and Randy the second to the youngest. And the boys were close growing up. The family also had an unusual home. They lived at an abandoned school. Dale and Randy's father was the groundskeeper, and part of the deal for the family to live at the school was that Randy's father would keep up the grounds in exchange for the family being able to live there. This sounds like a pretty neat deal to me. Randy says in one classroom there was a ping pong table, another room had abandoned books, another room had a boxing bag, and they would just go from room to room exploring the school. But it's not all happy. Randy says he has one strange memory of seeing Dale talking to the boxing bag when Dale thought he was alone in the room. Dale is talking to the bag like it's a person and saying, "I don't want any problems." And then Randy sees Dale punching the bag, and he does this a few times. Then Randy says Dale came home one day telling him that he punched a kid at school that was picking on him. And Randy says Dale told him when he saw blood, it felt good.
Red flag.
Yup. Randy said that incident gave him the creeps, but the brothers still remained close at home and later at work.
Needless to say, the news of the shootings around Phoenix was a hot topic of discussion at work for the brothers. And at the time, Randy didn't think his brother was responsible for the killings, but he did become suspicious when Dale Hausner started using meth and missing work.
Red flag.
Randy tells us on the show that he tried helping his brother stop doing the meth, but we hear his
Stop doing the meth?
Stop doing the meth. It sounds like a dance.
It does. Stop doing the meth. Stop doing the meth, Jen.
I'm not doing the meth.
Well, the dance. You were dancing.
I was doing the, yeah.
You were doing the meth dance. I don't know if that's the meth dance, but you were dancing. And
I was dancing.
You were saying meth, so meth dance.
Meth dance. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
No,
on with the story.
On with the story. So Randy tells us on the show that he tried helping his brother stop doing meth. But we hear his drug use stemmed from an issue that happened more than a decade before when his 2 children died in a tragic car accident. And after their deaths, we hear Dale Hausner and his wife got divorced, and that's when he moved to Phoenix to be closer to his brother.
Now let's go back to December 29th, 2005. This is about 6 months after that first shooting rampage in Phoenix. A man named Timmy Torty was working late, gets off a bus, and as he's walking home, he feels like he's having a heart attack. But he sees blood and discovers it's not a heart attack. He was shot. He makes it home, which was close by, and calls 911. Detective Cliff Jewell is called out, and as the search begins for the shooter, 2 more men are shot and killed within blocks of where Timmy Torty was shot. And another shooting, this one a woman. And we hear that she saw the killer point the gun at her, and she put her hands in front of her face to protect it.
We are a mile away from her shooting. 3 dogs were shot. And turns out people and animals weren't the only things that were shot at. We hear buildings and parked cars were also targeted once again. And at first, no one knew if all the cases were connected because different guns were used in the shootings. Until Phoenix police detective Cliff Jewell found a shell casing at Timmy Tordine's murder scene, which led police to believe the shooter has multiple weapons on him and that it's the same killer responsible for all the shootings.
Police hold a press conference on January 12, 2006 about the shooting rampage, and one of the main points they emphasize is that the shootings so far have happened between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So police want the public to be alert and not walk alone late at night. Police also ask the public for any information they may have about the shooter.
Everyone changed their habits, Camille Kimball says. People were no longer walking their dogs at night. They stopped going out front to smoke a cigarette. People stopped doing things outside the safety of their houses because it wasn't safe anymore. The killer could turn up anywhere, and anyone could be his next victim. Now, this serial shooter was on everyone's mind, including Dale Hausner's.
Randy also says everyone at work is talking about the shooter, including Dale.
Thankfully, in early 2006, police catch a break. Before you find out what the break was, here's a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Jake Tatum, top producing mortgage lender with the Wood Group of Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Before Jake was helping families get into homes, he spent years in law enforcement, solving problems under pressure. He learned how to read a scene, dig into the facts, and separate truth from noise. Now he brings that same level of clarity and precision to the mortgage world.
Because let's be honest, in this market, it can feel like there are clues, twists, and suspects everywhere. Interest rates moving, headlines popping, and everyone online acting like they have the secret code. Jake cuts through all of that.
Jake does all loan types: conventional, FHA, investment, renovation, and a one-time closed construction loan, you name it. And he also specializes in VA loans, making sure our veterans get every advantage they've earned.
And if you're thinking about refinancing, whether it's to lower your payment, pull cash out, or restructure your loan, Jake can break down your options and guide you through every step.
If you want a lender who treats your loan like a case file and actually solves it, connect with Jake today. Start at TatumHomeLoans.com. That's TatumHomeLoans.com. We hear that Clarissa Rowley, one of the victims from the December 29th shooting, survived, and she has information for the police about the shooter.
Detective Jules says Clarissa was able to give them a description of the shooter's car, and police have surveillance video from the night Clarissa was shot that also matches the description of the car. Clarissa also tells detectives that the shooter is a scruffy-looking white man.
Way to go, Clarissa. Seriously. Mm-hmm. The surveillance video of the car reminds me a lot of the surveillance video we saw in the episode we did about Brian Koberger from the night of the Idaho State murders. I don't know if you had the same inkling when you saw it.
I didn't, but I see what you're saying now.
We talked about how the killer at the time was stalking the victim's neighborhood in his car, just like Dale Hausner is doing here in this surveillance video that we see. But just as the case is heating up, the killer goes underground. He disappears. Now, we've talked about this before with some other serial killers, like Dennis Rader, also known as BTK. He was going dormant for decades before reemerging and killing again. Now, police are glad the killings have stopped, but they want to know, why did it stop? What happened to the suspect? Did he go somewhere else? What's his next move? And unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but we've heard it from police many times before. When a serial killer goes underground and stops, it makes it all the much harder for police to catch him.
We also learned that while the shooter is dormant, Dale is quite busy. He partnered with his roommate to run a shoplifting business out of their apartment.
And while this is going on, something crazy happens. We hear another serial killer starts murdering women in Phoenix. That killer was known as the Baseline Killer. There's 2 serial killers in the city of Phoenix, Arizona, working at the same time. Tina, how insane is that? At that point, I'd be like, let's get out of Arizona.
I'm out. Absolutely.
That's
I'm not staying
crazy.
there. 2 serial killers at the same time? What are the odds?
In one city.
I'm out. They are breeding serial killers in this area. I'm just kidding. That's not true. It is weird, though.
It's very strange.
I'm still out.
I've always been curious, and I'm sure there's studies on it out there, but I've always been curious about why there's more serial killers in certain parts of the country than in other parts of the country.
That's a fascinating question.
You know?
I agree.
I mean, there has to be a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's very simple. Maybe some of them don't like cold weather. So they go down south. Maybe some of them don't like hot weather, so they go up north. Detective Jules says the baseline killer has a completely different MO and was targeting completely different people. So he knew the baseline killer and the serial shooter were two different people. Detective Jewell also says he believes the serial shooter started up his crime sprees again because he didn't like that someone else was stealing his media attention.
I'm just over here giving Tina a look.
She is.
Like, what the heck? I'm just going to randomly go out and start committing more crimes because this dude is getting attention now.
We have talked about how they do have narcissistic personalities in other episodes.
It's crazy.
So that tracks with this one.
I know. Just how crazy is all this? Dale Hausner, who police obviously have not identified at this point, wants to be back in the spotlight. And he wants to see his nickname on the news again. So he starts back up, but this time he won't go at it alone. He's got an accomplice. That takes us to May 2nd, 2006. Dale Hausner and his roommate Sam Dietman are cruising around the city of Phoenix, and the duo we hear pulled up to a young man who was walking on the sidewalk. They rolled down the passenger window of the car they were in, and Dale Hausner reached across Dietman and shot the man. We hear in the show that Hausner then told his roommate, "Now it's your turn."
We hear that Dietman is now afraid. He just witnessed a guy being shot. He's stuck in a car with Dale, who has a gun. And according to Camille, the author, she says Dietman at that point had to go along with it. But now Dale has spotted a woman walking, and he gives the gun to Dietman and tells him to shoot her. And Dietman does. He shoots and kills a woman named Claudia Gutierrez Cruz.
At this point, everyone in the city of Phoenix is tired of these shootings and tired of living in fear. And the mayor offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the killers. Even Randy, Dale Hausner's brother, says he was hoping the police catch whoever is doing this because it's dangerous for him, his family, and his friends. We hear on the show that the mayor put together town hall meetings for residents to talk about the case and voice their concerns. And guess who was at those meetings? Dale Hausner actually went to one of them. When I heard this, I was floored because that's exactly what we talked about on the Golden State Killer episode we recorded early on. Joseph James D'Angelo, also known as the Golden State Killer, also known by our listeners as the Weasel, as Tina and I like to call him because he's a bottom dweller and a piece of crap in our opinion, he went to town hall meetings in Sacramento during his decades-long reign of terror, and then actually ended up attacking people who spoke out against him in those meetings. Tina, do you remember that?
I sure do. What a Weasley thing to do. There's a meeting about a serial killer. You are the serial killer. You go to the meeting and listen to people talk about how serial killer-y you are. You might as well start fingerprinting every person who shows up to town hall meetings about serial killers, because you're probably going to find them there. Camille, the author, says it gives the killer joy to listen to the fear in people's voices, and it makes serial killers feel powerful. That's why they go. In the Golden State Killer case, someone in the town hall meeting mentioned that the killer never attacks when a man is present. So, the killer hunted down that man and attacked him and his wife after that meeting.
Crazy.
If you want to go back and listen to that story, we did 2 episodes on it. We released them back in March, and the title is From Cop to Golden State Killer. And let's get back to the story.
We hear between May and June of 2006, many people were shot. In one night, people were shot with shotguns. Another night, 2 Walmart stores were set on fire and someone shot at them. And these guys were wreaking havoc on the city of Phoenix.
We see surveillance footage from one of the Walmart locations, and we see Dale and Dietman walking into Walmart pushing a shopping cart. One of the guys is wearing a long sleeve yellow t-shirt and what looks like jeans, and the other is wearing a black graphic t-shirt with gray shorts. Now we hear again from Randy, and he says he remembers going to his parents' house one night when he was on the phone with Dale, and he told Dale that there was a suspicious car in the neighborhood, and Dale responded by telling him to watch out because there's a crazy person out there. Randy says thinking back about this is creepy because he was actually talking to the shooter, who also happened to be his brother. Randy also mentions that he noticed a change in his brother around this time and asked him if he was on drugs again, but Dale denied it and said he was just a little depressed.
By this point, 5 people are dead and 18 had been wounded. And from the Walmart surveillance video, police knew they had 2 killers working together, Dale Hausner and Sam Dietman. The surveillance video of the suspects is released to the public, and that's when police get a big break. Police get a tip from a man named Ron Horton, who's a friend of Dietman. Ron told police the 2 men were drinking at a bar when Ron asked Dietman if he had ever killed anyone, and Dietman responded that he had.
But there's something else interesting that Dietman tells Ron. He says he used a .410 shotgun because you can't trace it. And that's information that only the killer would know because it hadn't been released to the public. Police show Ron the Walmart surveillance video, and he recognizes Dietman in the video as one of the 2 men. Now police have a suspect, and they need Ron's help to catch him.
On July 30th, 2006, the duo was at it again, hunting for victims on the streets of Phoenix. The following morning, police discovered 22-year-old Robin Blasnick had been shot with a shotgun while she was walking across the street on the way to her boyfriend's house.
At this time, police ask Ron to set up a meeting with Dietman so police can follow him and hopefully identify who the other suspect in the video is. Camille, the author, says that Ron was conflicted about this. On one hand, Dietman was his friend, but on the other, Dietman said he killed someone. We hear that Ron did make an effort to call Dietman, but Dietman didn't answer.
I feel like at this point, loyalty needs to be out the window.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, do what's right.
Yeah, if you find out that someone's killed someone, I mean, maybe he didn't believe him. Maybe he thought he was just
blowing smoke
after a few drinks, said some silly things. I don't know.
But he gave specifics, though.
That's a good point.
So as Tina had mentioned, Dietman didn't answer his call. You know why? They were hunting. The idea of that happening is terrifying. They could truly shoot and kill anyone who was walking along the street in Phoenix.
Camille says when Ron realized this, now he's all in on helping police catch Dietman. Finally. Ron now believes that Dietman is one of the killers. So the day after the shootings, Ron sets up a meeting with Dietman at a bar and tells Dietman to get a ride to the bar, hoping that the other guy in the Walmart video will be the one to drive him there. And it happens. Dale drops off Dietman at the bar, and police follow Dale to a mall. And while he's in the mall, police put a tracker on Dale's car. Police then set up surveillance to watch him, to keep an eye on Dale and Dietman, and they observed the 2 men seemingly try to hunt for victims.
Fortunately for police and residents of the city of Phoenix, on that night, there was a rainstorm, which caused Dietman and Hausner to abort their mission and go back home. We're told at this point, police got a search warrant for the duo's apartment, and they managed to get inside the apartment unbeknownst to the suspected killers, and were able to install a secret recording device inside the unit.
Camille says you could hear that Dale and Dietman were having fun talking about their crime sprees during their recorded conversations. Police also watched the men take out the trash, and as soon as they left it, police picked it up and went through it and found a map of Phoenix in one of the bags. The map had red and blue dots at the same locations of the shootings. And they also found a soda can with a .410 shotgun shell inside.
They have actual evidence now against these two, so police swoop in and arrest them on August 3rd, 2006. Needless to say, the news of Hausner's and Dietman's arrests sends shockwaves through the community.
Randy says he found out when his mom showed up to his apartment in the dark and told him Dale had been arrested, and police think he's one of the shooters. Randy says both of them were in disbelief. Randy also says he remembers being confused, and he drove to the police station and asked if it was true about his brother being arrested. He says while he's there, the news breaks about Dale's arrest, and he hears people at the station cheering and clapping while he's still in disbelief.
We see a picture of Dale Hausner being arrested. He's got reddish brown hair, a beard, and a mustache, and in the picture it looks like he's wearing only Adidas boxer shorts or Adidas shorts of some variety. And he's being led by a police officer with his hands behind his back and his head hung low. When I saw the picture, I was like, get this man a shirt. No one wants to see this. That was truly what I thought when I saw that. I was just like,
yeah, I mean, just throw a shirt on the guy.
Yeah, and needless to say, there was relief in the community, and residents were grateful that the search for these two never went cold. We hear at one point in the case, more than 350 police officers were working this case trying to catch these killers.
But Randy says his family is still going through it. He says someone lit a trash can on fire at one point and threw it at his door late one night. He says his car was vandalized and he had to stay with a friend for a few weeks to get away from the chaos. There are people going after this family.
We hear that police interviewed Dale Hausner first, but he didn't crack and give police anything. So officers started working on Sam Dietman, hoping he would admit to his participation in the killing or even flip on his partner in crime. Dietman apparently admitted he and Hausner were shooting people throughout Phoenix. The reason why? He didn't want to go to trial. That's why he confessed to it. But Hausner quickly went on the offensive.
So what happens next? Dale Hausner holds a press conference, Jen.
This is very Ted Bundy style, I think. Like calling the media, come talk to me. I'm a suspected serial killer.
Oh my gosh. We see police escort him into a room and seat him at a table in front of about half a dozen microphones. We know the media is in the room because of those mics, and we also see some lights flashing from a camera. Dale is wearing a stereotypical prison uniform, a black and white horizontal striped top and pants. The top says sheriff's inmate, and his hands are handcuffed in front of him. Dale tells the cameras that he did not shoot or kill anybody. Randy says during this time, he was allowed to video conference call with his brother. He says Dale looked him in the eyes and swore to him that he's innocent. Dale then says Dietman was the one who did the shootings, saying that Dietman took Dale's car, and he insists again he's innocent. Randy says in the past when confronted with drugs or anything else he did wrong, Dale always admitted it. So Randy says at this point, he didn't have any reason to think that he was lying.
We heard detectives search Hausner's car. They found additional evidence against the duo. They ended up finding 7 shell casings that matched shootings that were suspected to be linked to the men. In September 2008, Dale Hausner is brought to trial, and his family stood by him until the end of the trial.
And that's when Randy was cleaning out a storage room that belonged to Dale. And Randy found a notebook in that room that read like a diary. Randy says the things written in that diary were so horrific that he now knew his brother was guilty. Randy says one of the things he read in that diary was about Dale putting rat poison in someone's drink when he was in grade school and made them sick.
Dale Hausner ended up being convicted of 6 murders and over 70 other charges. 70. You heard that right. Including those for shooting animals, setting fires, and so forth. And Hausner ended up being sentenced to death.
Randy says his first thought after Dale's sentencing was that the punishment fits the crime, even if that was his brother.
Hausner, we hear, ended up committing suicide in prison. And on the show, we didn't hear what happened to Sam Dietman, so I did some digging and found out. And according to a New York Times article, Dietman was sentenced to life in prison.
Randy says he was shocked when he heard about Dale's death, But at the same time, he felt some relief that it's over and it was time to move on. Randy says after Dale's death, he was able to meet and talk in person with some of the victims of Dale's shootings, which sounds like it provided a little bit of healing for both sides. Randy also says he focuses now on bringing joy and laughter to people with clean stand-up comedy shows. And he says it's his way of giving back and countering some of the bad in the world.
I love that Randy wants to bring joy and laughter to people. I applaud him for that because I think it would have been very easy to get caught up in this wallow of what did I miss? How did I not realize my brother is a serial killer?
Yeah.
What an episode.
Crazy.
I lived with a killer.
Yeah. Who was my brother.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
What an episode. If you have not watched any of these I Live with a Killer shows, go and watch them. There is
20 episodes in season 1.
Yes. Tina can't get over that.
I can't. So that's a lot.
It's a lot. Let us know what you think about this episode and if you want us to cover more of them. In the past, we have always had a lot of listeners who liked our stories about these serial killer family speaks types episodes. And if you want to hear more, let us know. And you can do so either on Facebook, on Instagram. We're at 2 Crime Newsies. Or you can email us, 2crimenewsies@gmail.com.
Yes. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a 5-star review on any of your podcast platforms.
And share it with a friend.
Thank you. Yes. Please share it with a friend.
All right, my friend, you ready to close out?
Sure am.
Another good week.
It sure was.
All right, all you newsies out there, we will talk to you again next week. Bye.